Hello and welcome to Cable Plus Property, the #1 online educative platform on all issues related to land and landed property. My name is Oiza. At Cable Plus Property, our aim is to ensure that all Nigerians and non-Nigerians have at the tip of their finger everything they need to know about land acquisition, land procurement, building construction, planning, documentation, and registration of landed properties. We provide you with everything you need to get your property registered and also to obtain your planning permit from the government agency. In this video, I'll be speaking with an erudite scholar, an architect of the Department of Architecture, Yaba College of Technology, architect Dr. Kunle Ogunnaike. This is Cable Plus Property. So what is, for the sake of the audience, what is the distinct difference between the draftsman and the architect?
Like I said earlier, the draftsman is an employee most often of the architect. They are not really recognized by law. They have a body at a particular time regulating them, that these are draftsmen in Nigeria. They have an association, you understand, association where the association of some draftsmen. Let's look at the training. Is there a formal school that they train draftsmen in Nigeria? There's no school. There is no formal school of draftsmanship. No. So what does that mean? It means the draftsmen learn as apprentice from one person or the other. If you're talking about nursing, you know, school of nursing are all over there. If you're talking of radiographers, school of radiography is there. But there is no school of draftsmanship. So it tells us that draftsmen are really not schooled. They learn, it is a pure apprentice. And they learn usually under an architect, or under a draftsman, and they come to work in an architect's office. But over time, due to corruption, due to low economy, I don't know what I should use the word, due to Nigerian situation or Nigerian factor, the draftsmen will say they want to undertake building construction. With what knowledge? The knowledge of tracing some drawings is not enough for a draftsman to say it's taking an architect's job. No.
Now, sir, with your explanation so far, you said the architect is the lead of the team.
Exactly.
Does that mean the architect is responsible for building collapse?
Wow. What leads to building collapse? Let's first, architect is the head of the team. But what leads to building collapse? Usually when you're talking about building collapse, we are talking about structural failures. You understand now? Who is responsible for structural design? The architect is not responsible for structural design. There is an engineer responsible for structural design. So why do we have building failure, collapse? We have it either poor design or poor workmanship. Oh, what specification? Poor design is either the engineer did not do a proper design or did not get a proper briefing before he designs. So, or the contractor, they have a design for 2-story structure. Before you know it, the contractor is erecting 4 stories. Automatically, the load cannot stand. It's designed for 2-story, and a contractor goes ahead and, no, you can take it. We did something like that somewhere. And he goes ahead and builds 3 or 4 stories. So the structure will definitely fail. The other one is, if you engage an unqualified engineer to do your structures, you are mostly likely going to have either over design or under design. That is the second one. The third case is when you employ the wrong contractor. I will tell you where the architect is liable. The contractor may be trying to shortcut. You have in the design 16 mm, 20 mm. He decides to go for 12 mm. He wants to make money, extra profit. Well, the building will collapse. Did you understand that? If you collapse because you are not following the right thing, you don't follow the right specification, you don't follow the right design. So where do architects come in this instance? If in the appointment of the contractor, the architect compromised is then liable. If I want to do a job for you, and because I know Mr. X or Mr. Y, and I decided not to follow or not to do the due diligence, you understand that? Or maybe for whatever personal reason I choose, then the building collapses, then I'm liable. I'm not directly liable, but by law, I may be liable. I have a duty of reasonable care. That is what I owe the client as an architect. It's under a lot of thoughts. You owe your client duty of reasonable care. So you may be liable, but directly, even contractually, you are not involved in the project. In the project construction, the architect assumes another role. He is now supervisor representing the client's interest. It is the contractor. The contractor and the client signs that building contract. The architect is not part of it. Do you get it? It is the contractor and the client that form that building contract. The architect acts in that respect. That's contract level, that's post-contract, contract and post-contract level. He acts strictly as an agent of the client. So it is not really architect's fault when you see building collapses. Maybe due to one or two things the architect they missed along the way. You understand? Or the contractor wants to make too much money, unjustified profit.
Okay. How can building collapse be avoided, especially in this present economic situation?
Well, it can be avoided if we try to do the right thing, employing the right professionals into the job, employing the right artisans into the job, and follow the guidelines. The guidelines by the building code, it's quite explicit, it's clear. The National Building Code explains. In fact, before the National Building Code, we have the building regulations. The building regulations specify some little things, but the National Building Code even specifies the minimum safety standards for all these things. And it is not comprised, it is not made up by the architects alone. By all the 6 professionals I named earlier, the engineers, the quantity surveyor. So if we follow those things and we follow up with control, when I say follow is control this time around, I know Lagos State is doing well on that area. They have a body called LABSCA that will go and keep on checking on the building. They will even test the reinforcement at the of standard. If LABSCA continues at that, doing that, the building collapse will be very minimal. Checking everything at different stages. At this level, we are checking the floor. At this level, we are checking. Then I tell you, the building collapse will be... First, they have to get approval. Most of the buildings that collapses may not even get the right approval in the first instance. Some will get approval for 2-story structure. They will go and build 3-story structures. All the drawings they submitted were two levels, ground floor, first floor. But they went on and built 3 stories. And they go to site. So when you have such problems, I'm still going back to the control issue. The control is important. If we can control the professionals to do good job, we control the contractor to ensure that the contractors are doing the right thing, the building collapse will be very minimal, very, very minimal.
You mentioned building codes. Who prepares the codes and what is it meant for?
Well, building code was actually done by the federal government. It's a council of works and urban development. They started it. And the preparation is done by the 6 professions again, which I referred to. The heads of all those professions sat at different times and prepare a policy paper that, okay, for this thing, this is what we need. The building code covers from pre-design, design, contract, and post-contract. So it contains almost all guidelines. It tells you what buildings are these. Even buildings are grouped into different A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. So many, and they have subgroups equally. And it sets all the conditions for each one. For A, for B, for C, how they should be. I'm talking about architecture. For other professions, it will tell you A, B, C, what they're supposed to do. But for architecture, classification, the use classification is there into groups A, B, C, D, F, G, H, up to H, I think. So it is very clear.
So it is meant to regulate the activities of the profession.
It's as a result of collapse, short practices in the building industry, and leading to so many other things. You understand? So the National Council of Works and Urban Development have to resort to that to stop or to reduce the damage to the urban to our urban cities. Yeah.
It is expensive for an individual to build their own homes.
Okay.
How do you think the government can help?
Well, the word expensive depends on what you mean. Housing or
An average person in Nigeria finds building a home expensive.
Well, that's Nigerian perspective. In most countries, you don't need to build homes. In Germany, for instance, home ownership is very, very low. People rent. You see, home ownership has two levels. Housing has two levels. Do you want to rent a home or do you want to own a home? In some countries in Europe, it is cheaper and better to rent homes. You don't bother building. In some countries, it is good to build your home. In UK and some other countries, you don't even build your home. You buy the homes. There are specialized bodies that will building associations, and they will build. We are doing something similar by selling land to some people. They will not build estates. That is what is done in UK. Individuals, it may be expensive. If I want to do farming, let me use farming as an example. I'm cultivating this small area, and the other one is I'm cultivating mechanized, a very large one. The cost of production of this small one will be very high compared to if I have a large area. So that may explain. The other thing is that if you want to encourage people to build houses individually, do we have the wherewithal? Do we have trained artisans? Like we said again, do you have trained artisans to do it? At the end of the day, the artisans will keep on talking here and there. What government can do, back to your question, is probably leverage on the tax. You reduce some of the tax, because most of the materials we use in Nigeria are imported. The cement is imported, even though we have Dangote that is doing, but at the end of the day, even imported ones comes cheaper. The cost of cement is very high. So if government can do something to reduce the cost of cement, what else do we do in construction? Glass is imported. We do have working glass industry. Aluminium, do we have aluminium industry? So all those things makes the cost of building. So government can do that one. And if the will is there to reduce the cost of housing, if the will is there, we have deficit, over 20 million housing deficit. Everybody knows that. But if the government will is there, the political will is there, they will reduce taxes on those things and allow it inside, or encourage the production of building materials, then the cost will come down.
The cost of building materials is very high, like you rightly said. Are there alternative construction materials that can be used?
Yeah. The alternatives are not very developed. That's the problem. The alternative materials you want to use, because of our low technology, may not be very appropriate for the cities. May not be appropriate for the cities. What do I mean by that? Mud houses will not be appropriate in cities. You understand that? But if you want to build mud houses, you go to the village. Well, it's cheap. You can do that. But how do you want to have a mud house? It's not aesthetically pleasant, and it cannot last. So, the alternative materials in cities, I still don't see it. I still don't see any alternative.
Mud houses do not last?
They do not last. They are perishable. They cannot withstand rain, what. Let me explain to you. Do you see models lasting more than 50 years? Nah, I doubt it. They not even last up to that.
How about red brick houses?
Well, red brick, if they are well burnt, will last longer. Yeah. But if they are well treated, will last longer.
What advice can you give to the viewer watching this video on how to maintain their buildings?
Well, if the design is done very well at the onset, you have low maintenance cost. If the design is not done very well, if you compromise at the design stage, you are going to have high maintenance costs. What do I mean? If you try to do a cheap foundation, for instance, let's say you are building in a swamp area, even not swamp, a normal land, you try to do it. No, I can manage it with this foundation. Mr. X or Mr. Y did it. And you go ahead and do a shoddy foundation. You have cracks later on. Cost of repairing those cracks will be a big problem. Do you understand? If will not even lead to underpinning. You understand? So if you employ the right engineer, the right people, and do the correct foundation, you will likely not have any problem. I'm not saying you will still have a problem, but you will likely not have any problem. So if you use the right people, you will get low maintenance cost, low maintenance. It's just easy. I say one fridge on the street, I want to buy it, I see another one there. This one is Taiwan. This one is probably made in UK or made in another place. You understand? There is a higher likelihood that the one from Germany or UK will last longer than the one that was done on the sea. You understand? That's not really branded. Yeah, I don't want to use the word Taiwan. That is not branded. Somebody just assembled some farm on the sea, bring it to Nigeria. But the other one is branded with a name, either from UK, US, or China. The company has a name, they have integrity. So if you use such product, most likely you are going to get value. But the unbranded one, the man has no identity. If it doesn't work, so be it.
So for someone who has probably builded something and made a mistake in building, what do you think is the way out?
Well, the way out first and foremost is that it will have higher maintenance costs if you have not done the right thing at the beginning. You have higher maintenance cost. Then when you want to do your maintenance work, call a good builder. I use them a lot for facilities management. Call a good builder, they know what to do. They can advise you on, okay, this plaster is cracking. It's not a design work, plaster is cracking. Well, as a good builder, I can tell you what you can use to stop that plastering defect. You understand? There's a crack wall there. Oh, maybe it's a mix. Let's use this mix, and that does it.
How can a person become an architect?
I explained earlier, but I will say it again. To be an architect is not a very easy task. It's one of the difficult professions in this country, even in the world, so to say. It takes at least about 6 years if you go to the university after your jump. You first do 4 years, you go out 1 year, then do your youth corps or just stay out 1 year, go back to university, do 3 years. So you have 6 years in university. If you pass through the polytechnic level, you spend about 4 years in the polytechnic, 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, another 2 years, right? I'm making 4 years of studies. I'm not talking of the 1 year IT. Then you now read for what we call professional practice exam. You read for exam 1 or 2, NIA exam 1 and 2. The NIA 1 and 2 will train you to write certain exams, which they feel is deficient, and those papers will now make you the level. You understand that? They make you the level of master's degree. They have what you call NIA Finals 1, NIA Finals 2. When you have NIA Finals 2, you are deemed to be equivalent to a master's degree holder. You understand that? After it takes you about 3 years after HND to clear those papers. After you have finished your 6 years university or NIE finals 2, you need additional 2 years again before you can write your professional exams.
Wow.
So it takes almost 10 years to be an architect. The 2 years, you do it as tutelage or peer pupillage under an architect, where you are tested. Your logbook you must have had 6 months of design, 6 months of pre-design, design, and construction experience. And a registered architect will check everything you are doing at different times. It is after that logbook certification that you are eligible to write the professional practice exam. It is after that one you do that one, and then if you pass the 4 papers, then they will now admit you as a chartered architect or a member of the institute.
And you can start
you can practice.
taking projects.
Yes. The moment you finish university, you can work as an architect. We call you provisional architects.
Okay.
Provisional architects. Some architects will not even register. They or could not pass the professional practice exam. So they are still provisional architects because they have 6 years degrees in architecture, 6 years of study in architecture. They have done HND, they have done NIA finals 1 or finals 2. They are practicing as architects, but they are not principals. They are not supposed to start a firm. You understand? They are not principals. But to be a principal, you need to be a chartered architect, and that means you must have passed the NIA examination.
We'd like you to say something about this Cable Plus property endeavor, the show.
Well, I see it as a project enlightening so that the mass, the public, will know who to consult in the nearest future. And if we keep on doing it, we will enlighten the public, engaging the right professionals in doing the right work. And I think it's a laudable project, so keep it up.
Thank you very much, sir. It was great talking to you.
Same here.
Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Cable Plus Property. Also, follow us on Instagram at Cable Plus Property and like our Facebook page at Cable Plus Property. Till we come your way again, this is Cable Plus Property.